Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And my brothers and sisters, this is going to be a very big week for gun rights. We've got the Rahimi case that's coming out. I'm going to drop everything that you need to know right now because this is the stuff that we're about to experience starting on Tuesday. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this one. And make sure you watch this whole video as it might be a little bit longer, but it sets you up for the arguments that we're going to hear on Tuesday at SCOTUS. Now, of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on because we have some freedom to distribute, and we do it twice daily. And the content today is brought to you by SDI. Now, I know a lot of you out there like to upgrade and modify your own guns. And if you're looking to turn a hobby that you love into a career, Sonoran Desert Institute can help. Their online programs cover everything from woodworking and ballistics to gunsmithing to shooting sports management and more, plus all the tools and materials are shipped directly to your door. There's never been a better time to turn that hobby that you love into a career you actually enjoy. So what are you waiting for? There's a link in the description box below, and thank you so much to SDI for making this content possible. All right, my brothers and sisters, we have a big week, as I mentioned. The Rahimi case is coming out into court on Tuesday. Now, there's a bunch of things that you need to know about this, and I'm going to walk you through it. This is not an ideal defendant. Flat out, I'm going to tell you. This guy is not look good on paper. He doesn't look good in the law. Doesn't look good in public opinion. We're going to see that come up, I promise. However, this is bigger than the defendant. This is about what this implies across the board. Keep that in mind as we go forward. Now, here we go. Why one survivor of domestic violence wants the Supreme Court to uphold a gun control law. This is from the AP, and they're going straight down the domestic violence road. That's what the Democrats have laid this out. If the Democrats lose this and the Rahimi case turns out to be a massive win for a gun rights side, the Democrats are going to use it for political means in the election to say the Supreme Court's out of whack, they're so rogue, they want to do this, et cetera, et cetera. They already have that road planned out. If they win, then they go see gun rights as constitutional. Either way, they see it as a win-win. That's what they're going to do, right? Now, here's what we're facing. 2 years later, Congress put such a law in place prohibiting people facing domestic violence restraining orders from having guns. Quote, he would not have been able to access that gun if we had these current laws in place, Glenn said in an interview with the Associated Press that took place outside the Supreme Court, talking about Rahimi. This entire thing is based around if people with domestic violence restraining orders lose their gun rights. Keep in mind, domestic violence restraining orders are not convictions. That's the point. This is about convictions, not about a court order. That's the piece here. There is a differentiator. Now, the government is going to try to argue XYZ around the fact that this should not happen because of public safety, and the gun rights side is going to say, even though this guy looks terrible, you can't take rights from people without convictions. That's the entire point, the due process. Does that sound familiar? Let's keep going. The High Court is hearing arguments Tuesday in a challenge to the 1994 law. The closely watched case is the first one involving guns to reach the justices since their landmark Bruin decision last year, expanded gun rights, no it's not, we know it didn't, and changed the way courts evaluate whether restrictions on firearms violate the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. It did not expand gun rights, it curtailed gun control. That's an important piece. Gun rights organizations are supporting Zaki Rahimi, the Texas man whose challenge to the law led to the Supreme Court case. The law has blocked nearly 77,800 firearm sales over the last 25 years, said Shira Feldman, director of constitutional litigation at the gun violence prevention group Brady, massive gun control group. Now, of course, they said 77,800 firearm sales. That doesn't mean 77,000 felons. That means 77,000 people who had domestic violence restraining orders applied against them, no matter what the reason is. They haven't been convicted of anything in court. It is quite literally, I don't feel safe, therefore keep him away from me, then you lose your gun rights. It's without due process. That's the point at issue here. The Democrats and the gun controllers are going to use this as fodder. That's what we're facing, okay? Now, they're going to try to make this all about the defendant, which, honestly, I don't blame them. He's a terrible defendant. But it's bigger than this one individual. It's about the other 77,800 people. All right, check this out. Rahimi's case reached the Supreme Court after prosecutors appealed a ruling that threw out his conviction for possessing guns while subject to a restraining order. Rahimi was involved in 5 shootings over 2 months in and around Arlington, Texas, U.S. Circuit Judge Corey Wilson noted. When police identified Rahimi as a suspect in the shooting and showed up at his home with a search warrant, Rahimi admitted both to having guns in his house and being subject to a domestic violence restraining order that prohibited gun possession, Wilson wrote. But even though Rahimi was hardly a model citizen, Wilson wrote, the law at issue could not be justified by looking to history, Bruin. That's the test Justice Clarence Thomas laid out in his opinion for the court in Bruin. That's the important piece. The left is looking for any victory over Bruin at all because then they can say, see, just keep bringing cases forward. We'll eventually defeat Bruin because it's so obnoxious and insane. And then the gun rights side is saying, no, this is your standard. It's up to the SCOTUS to decide if they uphold their standard, they adjust it. The left, the gun controllers, they are chasing an adjustment to Bruin because then it will stop the bleeding. That's what this is about. Make no mistake, we're talking about something bigger than the Rahimi case. That's why the government is pushing it so hard, and that's why we get things like this. The appeals court initially upheld the conviction under a balancing test that included whether the restriction enhances public safety. Interest balancing was done away with in Bruin. That was a major victory. But the panel reversed course after Bruin. At least one district court has upheld the law since the Bruin decision. This piece, Rahimi's case, and the subject of domestic violence may offer the government the optimal situation for defending gun restrictions. That quote right there is it. They were looking for a case that they could take to be sympathetic against public or for public safety. The interest balance is gone. They want interest balancing back. Everything that they've put forward over the last 20 to 30 years has been based on the interest balancing. We ban ARs because the public safety trumps individual rights. Interest balancing. That's what they've done for the last 20 to 30 years. It got smoked in Bruin. They want it back. This is an example of how they would get it back. Now, again, this is not a small potato, and I'm going through this fast, but this is where you're going to be at as we go through this. But supporters of Rahimi said the appeals court got it right when they looked at American history and found no restrictions close enough to justify the gun ban. They also object to the hearing process under which restraining orders can be issued as insufficiently protective of the rights of people like Rahimi, and that's the point. It's about the rights of the individual, not about the crimes of the individual, because the crimes of the individual he is currently in jail for and will be in jail for because he has committed those crimes and been convicted of those crimes. The issue here is the gun rights or the gun control and being able to take it from somebody without a conviction, without due process. That is the point. They're going to try to obfuscate it to anything else under the sun. Interest balancing, domestic abuse, criminals, guns, all this, anything they can think of to get around the point that due process is being infringed and avoided. That's the whole point. It is sort of a truism that our commitment to due process and the rule of law means very little if we don't assure that everybody gets due process, said Clark Neely, a vice president at the Libertarian Cato Institute, who authored a brief on Rahimi's side. And again, I want to be crystal clear. This guy is not a good defendant. This guy is not a good person to take the Supreme Court because this guy looks like a piece of, you can figure it out. Not a good dude. Flat out. It's not about the dude. It's not about the dude's criminal activity. He's paying for those crimes because he was convicted. He should not lose his gun rights without a conviction. He should lose his gun rights because of a felony conviction because that is the standard of law. Whether you agree or don't agree, that's your thing. I'm just telling you the standard of law is that the felons lose their gun rights. That's the entire point. You have to have a conviction with due process. Let's keep going. The court's decision in the Rahimi case could have widespread ripple effects, including in the high-profile prosecution of Hunter Biden, because they'd use that. Quote, it has the potential to be pretty impactful, Charles said. While it's possible the high court could hand down a decision on the Rahimi case alone, it seems, quote, the court is realizing that it's just going to have to keep having these cases if they decide this narrowly, and that's the big payoff. If they decide this narrowly, they're going to have more and more and more. If they stick to the Bruin decision, the left is screwed and up a creek without a paddle, without no paddles, like up like a river without a paddle. And if they go against their own decision and reinterpret Bruin, they now have another shakeup on their hands. That's what's at stake here. That's why this is much, much bigger than the Rahimi case. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.